it is true, the world is, is a crazy place at the moment. And Myanmar, where I've spent pretty much the last 15 years, is no different. And it's another place where we see and we need and we see God, working in giving peace to individuals in that place. And the other thing I want to say is that really appreciate the worship this morning. And there was one line that really hit me as well, saying that in Christ our future is wide open, right? And you can see as I share about my experience in Myanmar, you could see how true again that those words are. But as I said, I've got to be brief. So. Again, good morning. Very grateful to be able to give another update on the work of my place in my home church, Oakley Baptist. Last time, I had an opportunity to share just a bit more than a year ago. So I'll be brief today. Okay, let me see where the right is. This one? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So for close to 15 years, since being prayed for and sent off from this platform right here, I've been running family-style children's homes in Yangon, the main city of Myanmar, for kids who have been orphaned or who are in need for other reasons from all corners of the nation. And our motto is based on Luke 2:52, where it says Jesus grew up in wisdom and in stature, in favor with God, in favor with man. And that's exactly what we hope to do with the kids under our care. And aside from giving these kids a shelter for them to continue to pursue their education, we also run combined events like summer camps and other activities. And the reason why there are such vast needs amongst the kids in Myanmar is that Myanmar, and it's a bit funny that it's a bit strange that the world is so full of craziness at the moment that people don't actually think about Myanmar anymore, because it is actually, so like as mentioned, some really things, things that are happening that, all over the world people should be concerned about as well. Myanmar is a nation that has the dubious distinction of having the longest ongoing civil war in the world today, having gone on for more than 75 years, and which has only escalated since the military coup in early 2021. Airstrikes have escalated significantly recently in 2025 and early 2026, causing a surge in civilian casualties as well as internally displaced persons, including a great number of children. 42 million people out of a population of 54 live below or barely above subsistence levels. The public education system has pretty much collapsed. And under these conditions, Myanmar has become a major hub for international cyber scam operations, as well as having another dubious honor of being the world's largest producer of the drug I've got to learn how to pronounce this, methamphetamine, all right? And yeah, Myanmar is actually the largest producer of that drug in the world. And it is exactly into this incredibly challenging environment that God has sent us to reach out to and rescue hundreds of boys and girls into a better life and future. While we care for both boys and girls in our 5 homes, in my father's house, which is where I live when I'm over there and where I head up, we only have boys for obvious logistical reasons. We had a life link here with my father's house a bit more than 3 years ago, when 4 of the boys shared some song items. And I would like to give you an update on them now. On that day, Shane, in the white, whose father walked out on the family when he was born, and whose mother passed away when he was 7 years old, he sang Goodness of God, together with Michael in the yellow, who was sent to us after all four of his older brothers had died from preventable diseases in the rural village. And then there was Laram in the red, who was sent to us by his family to escape the drug epidemic that had already claimed the lives of many youths and even primary school age kids in their village. He sang, "This is Amazing Grace." Pew in the blue, whose father was an alcoholic and literally the town drunk, was sent to us by his mother with expressed instruction to him of grow up to be someone unlike your father. On that Sunday 3 years ago, Pew sang a song that he wrote himself just 4 days after he learned that his father had died of liver failure. Today, Michael is 3 months away from completing his GED, an internationally recognized high school qualification. Shane has just finished his second year towards a Bachelor of Theology degree. Last Saturday, Laram attended his graduation ceremony for IGCSE, an internationally recognized high school certificate. On the same day, Pew also attended his graduation ceremony, in which he received his certificate in church music from a music institute. For most children in the war-torn nation of Myanmar, to grow in wisdom and in stature, in favor with God and man, may seem to be an impossibility, but that is exactly what God has been doing in the lives of hundreds of kids there through the work of My Place. Josiah is another one of our kids for whom God has brought complete transformation, not only just to him, but his whole family as well. And I would like to read you Josiah's story as written by him himself recently. I was born and raised in Myanmar, a place where life was not easy and where Christianity was not common. My family was strong Buddhist. No one in my home talked about Jesus. We lived in a 10 feet by 30 feet shed made up of corrugated metal sheets and bamboos. 7 of us shared that tiny space. When it rained, we worried. When it was hot, we could barely breathe. As the shed was just put together on public land, we didn't have any running water. Every day, we had to pay money and carry water back in buckets. We didn't have any toilet either. Whenever we needed to use one, we had to walk to a neighbor's house and ask for permission. Sometimes they allowed us. Often, we had to wait. As a child, I remember feeling embarrassed. I remember thinking, why is our life like this? That was my childhood. However, when I was around 10 years old, things began to change. My friend and I started going to Sunday school, not because we were searching for God, but because they gave snacks after service. We were curious about the missionaries from other countries. It felt exciting and different from our normal life. At first, I only enjoyed the games, the drawings, the dancing, and the Bible stories. But slowly, those stories began to touch my heart. As I grew older, I began to understand who God is. I learned about salvation. I started attending church regularly. I joined youth camps and programs. And through summer camps, I came to know My Place and Uncle Michael. But following Jesus came with a price. My family did not agree with my decision. Relatives complained. People criticized me. There were arguments at home. I was pressured to stop going to church, but I could not turn back. At night, my home felt like a battlefield. You see, my father was addicted to alcohol. Every night, he came home drunk. He would argue for hours. He would fight with my mother. Often, he beat me and my siblings. Once, he threw me against the wall and broke my arm. Many nights, I went to bed in tears. I remember staring into the darkness and asking God, why is my family like this? Will this ever change? Financially, we were drowning. My father worked every day and earned around 20,000 jets, which is less than $7.50 Australian dollars a day to feed 7 people. It was never enough. My parents borrowed money at high interest just to survive. The debt kept growing. There were days when I saw the stress in my mother's eyes. There were nights when I heard my parents arguing about money. It felt like there was no future for us. But in the middle of that darkness, I prayed. I prayed that my father would know God. I prayed that my family would know God. I prayed that the addiction would break. I prayed that the debt would end. I kept praying, even when I could see no change. And yet, unbeknownst to me, he heard every single word. When I was in grade 9, God began to move. I was invited to live at my father's house, run by Uncle Michael. Meanwhile, my family situation continued to get worse. The debt became unbearable. One day, my parents had no choice but to ask me to request help from Uncle Michael. Before that, they only knew a little about God. But when every human solution failed, they knew enough to look up to heaven. And that is when everything changed. After the debt was paid, my family began going to church. They started learning the Word of God. And then came the miracle that still makes me cry whenever I think about it. My father stopped drinking. The man who came home drunk every night, the man no one believed could change, was completely transformed. No program, no human effort. It was just God. Our home, once filled with shouting and fear, now filled with peace. Instead of crying at night, we began to pray together. Today, my whole family are believers. Sometimes I look back at that small 10 by 30-foot house with no toilet, with no running water, full of debt and pain, and I cannot believe where I stand now. I completed my GED, and I'm now preparing to leave Myanmar to study abroad. For a boy who once had to carry water in buckets just to survive, going overseas for education was beyond imagination. But God does not look at background. God does not look at poverty. God does not look at impossibility. He looks at the heart. He looks at a child who went to church for snacks and turns him into a young man with a testimony of transformation. From addiction to freedom, from debt to provision, from tears to purpose, nothing is impossible with God. If he can rewrite my story, he can rewrite anyone's. And I know, as for my story, this is not the end yet. Oh no, he is only beginning. Josiah said, if God can rewrite my story, he can rewrite anyone's. About a month ago, we were made aware of 3 children who had to evacuate from their home to hide in the forest in order to escape the escalating violence around the village. After receiving admission from us, they walked for 3 days to reach the nearest town before embarking on a 10-day journey via various modes of transport to reach the safety of one of our homes in Yangon. God's rewrite of their stories have now begun. Since 2011, God has rewritten hundreds of stories and lives that would have seemed hopeless. By his grace, he has also given us the privilege of achieving the impossible together with him. Your prayers and your support have been instrumental in turning the lives of Josiah, Lara, Pew, Shane, Michael, and hundreds of other boys and girls around. And I know for a fact that if we remain faithful, our God is faithful to continue using us to achieve the impossible for hundreds more. Thank you.